Hello, good morning students. Today we'll discuss some other terms related to the immunology. Now first term is Western blotting. Western blotting, as you all know, it is a very sensitive immunological method for detecting proteins. Its characteristic feature is the transfer of complex protein pattern resolved by slab gel electrophoresis to a membrane which serves as a carrier for all subsequent immunochemical reaction. Major field of application in basic research are determination of molecular weight of protein antigen, detection of antigen in crude mixture of protein, and assessment of quality of animal antisera. Western blotting has found important clinical application in autoimmune diseases, allergy, infectious diseases, and others. The process of Western blotting we have already studied. That is, the mixture of protein, first of all, is separated by lysing a cell. Then it is run through gel electrophoresis STS page. The separation of protein, it will be there depending upon the size. Then will have blocking, and then antibodies, they will be reacted, and then through autoradiography the proteins, they will be diagnosed or analyzed. Next term is hemoagglutination. Hemoagglutination is specific form of agglutination which involves the RBCs. It has two common uses in the laboratory: blood typing and quantification of virus dilution in the hemoagglutination assay. Blood type can be determined by using antibodies that bind to A or B blood group antigen in the sample of blood. For example, if antibodies that binds the A blood group are added and our agglutination occurs, the blood is either A or AB. To determine between the type A and type AB, antibodies that binds the B group are added, and if the agglutination does not occur, the blood is type A. If agglutination does not occur, it is either antibodies that bind to type A or type B antibodies. So if no agglutination occur, the blood type, it is O. So in this way, four types of blood groups they are there: A, B, AB, and O. Many viruses attack two molecules present on the surface of RBC. A consequence of this is that a certain concentration of viral suspension may bind together or agglutinate the RBCs, thus preventing them from settling out of suspension. Since agglutination is not linked to infectivity, attenuated viruses can therefore be used in assay, while an additional assay such as plaque assay must be used to determine infectivity. By seriously diluting a virus suspension into an assay tray, a series of wells of uniform volume and are added a standard amount of blood cell, the estimation of number of viruses particles can be made. That is RBC plus the infection of, if the virus is added to the RBC, it leads to the hemoagglutination. If the virus is added to RBC along with the antibody binds with the virus, neutralizing it, and therefore there is no hemoagglutination, or hemoagglutination inhibition is there, which indicates the presence of the viruses. Next and very important term in the immunology, it is primary and secondary humoral immune response. Now, difference between primary and secondary humoral immune response is important. As you all know, primary immune response occurs as a result of primary contact with the antigen, whereas secondary immune response, it occurs as a result of second and subsequent exposure of the same antigen after the first. Primary is first of all when the antigen it interacts. So primary immune response responding cell is naive B cell and T cells. Naive B cell means who have never interacted with antigen, whereas in the case of secondary immune response, responding cell is memory cells, which are formed by the division of the plasma cell. In the case of primary immune response, the lag phase is often longer. Lag phase is time taken to induce the first response, that is the production of antibody. It is 4 to 7 days and sometimes can be a week or a month. Whereas in the case of the secondary immune response, the lag phase is shorter and it is from 1 to 4 days due to the presence of the memory cells. Now next is, in the case of primary immune response, the level of antibody reaches peak in 7 to 10 days. It takes some time, whereas in the case of secondary immune response, the level of antibody reaches peak in 3 to 5 days. It will take less time. In primary immune response, it takes longer time to establish the immunity, whereas in the case of secondary immune response, it takes less time to establish the immunity. So primary immune response, the first antibody produced is mainly IgM, the largest, right? Although small amount of IgG is also produced. So in this graph, you can see that first of all the IgM, that is which is depicted by the red colored wave, right? IgM it is produced, right? Whereas in the case of secondary immune response, mainly IgG antibody is produced, although sometimes small amount of IgM is also produced. So see here, in the case of secondary immune response, IgE is depicted in the blue color. It is a very high level of IgG it is produced, whereas IgM it is produced in small amount. Other immunoglobulins such as IgA and in case of allergy IgE it is also produced in the secondary immune response. Now coming to the primary immune response, the amount of antibody produced depend upon the nature of antigen, usually produced in a low amount. In the case of secondary immune response, usually 100 to 1000 times more antibodies they are produced. So see here, the wave is so high in the case of the secondary immune response. So in the case of primary immune response, antibody level declines rapidly. IgM it is produced, IgG is also produced after some time and it declines after some time, right? Whereas in the case of secondary immune response, antibody level remains high for a longer time. Okay, then primary immune response, affinity of antibody is lower for the antigen, whereas in the case of secondary immune response, the antibodies have greater affinity for the antigen. So this graph is very important, which depicts with the help of the red wave the IgM. In the primary immune response, it is produced almost the same level it is produced in the secondary immune response, whereas in the case of IgG, it is produced after the IgM. It is produced in a again small amount, but in the secondary immune response, it is produced to a greater level and it retains for a longer time. So this is regarding the primary and secondary immune responses. So primary immune response mainly in the lymph nodes and the spleen, whereas secondary response it appears mainly in the bone marrow, followed by spleen and the lymph node. So both thymus dependent and thymus independent antigen give the primary immune response, whereas this is a very important point, that only thymus dependent antigens give secondary immune response. This is very important, right? Thymus independent antigen only gives secondary immune response. Now coming to the next term, that is T cell epitope. It is a region of antigen recognized by TCR of the T cell, right? The size of T cell epitope depend upon the type of MHC present the antigen. If the MHC class 1 present, the size of epitope is 8 to 12 amino acid. If the MHC class 2, it presents the size is bit larger, that is 12 to 25 amino acid. It is usually present in the internal region of antigen. Recognition of this epitope possible when it is presented along with the MHC molecule. The position of T cell epitope which interacts with the MHC molecule is referred to as agritope, right? And so you can say that the peptide, the antigen peptide, which is processed by MHC molecule, it is having two parts. One is the epitope, second is the agritope. The agritope portion is recognized by the TCR, whereas epitope portion is recognized by the class 2 MHC molecule. So immunogenicity of T cell epitope achieved through ternary complex formation with MHC antigen TCR of the T cell. This is a very important term, ternary complex. Ternary means three, means MHC class 2, peptide antigen and TCR. Then next term, it is antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity, that is ADCC. The antibody dependent cellular toxicity is also referred to as antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity and is a mechanism of cell mediated immune defense whereby an effector cell of immune system actively lyses a target cell whose membrane surface antigen has been bound by specific antibodies. It is one of the mechanisms through which antibodies as a part of humoral immune response can act to limit and contain infection. ADCC is independent of the immune complement system that also lyses target but does not require any other cell. ADCC requires an effector cell which classically is known as a natural killer cell that typically interact with IgG antibodies. However, macrophages, neutrophils, eosinophils can also mediate antibody dependent cell mediated toxicity such as eosinophils killing certain parasitic worms known as helminthes via IgE antibody. So in this diagram we can see antibody bind to the antigen on the surface of the target cell, then NK cell CD16 Fc receptors recognizes cell bound antibodies, then cross linking of CD16 triggers degranulation into a lytic synapse. Tumor cells die by apoptosis. This is antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity with the help of the NK cells. Now coming to the NK cells, that is natural killer cells, also known as K cells or killer cells, are type of lymphocytes or WBC and a component of the innate immune system. NK cells plays a major role in host rejection of both tumors and virally infected cells. NK cells are cytotoxic. Small granules in the cytoplasm contain special proteins such as perforins and proteases known as granzymes. Upon release in close proximity to the cell slated for the killing, perforins form spore in the cell membrane of the target cell through which the granzyme and associated molecules can enter and inducing apoptosis. NK cells are activated in response to interferons and macrophages derived cytokines. They serve to contain viral infection while the adaptive immune response is generating antigen specific cytotoxic T cells that can clear the infection. So here what happens for NK cells, very important, no MHC association of the cell is required. They can kill the cell without the MHC molecule also. So these are few terms we have discussed, and the last term is degranulation. Degranulation is a cellular process that releases antimicrobial, cytotoxic or other molecules from the secretory vesicles called granules found inside some cells. It is used by several different cells involved in immune system including granulocytes, that is neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils as well as the mast cell. It is also used by certain lymphocytes such as NK cells and cytotoxic T cells whose main purpose is to destroy the invading microorganism. So in this diagram we can see this is a degranulation process in the mast cell. One point is the antigen. Antigen comes, right? It is binded with the help of IgE antibody, and it binds with the receptor present on the surface of the mast cell, and then it will stimulate the cell. There is a change in the calcium ion, and ultimately it leads to the degranulation and release of prostaglandins, leukotrienes, thromboxanes, platelet activating factor will be there through the mast cell. So this is degranulation. So these are few terms. I hope the concept is clear to you. Thank you.